By now you've heard our presentations on the magic system, combat system in general, and some other BSC presentations. This is the most insane of all the presentations we're going to make. This is the one when I told Brian Green a couple of the BSC ideas. The first one was the magic system, and he was like, that's not so crazy. And then I told him this one, and he was like, yeah, okay, that's crazy. This is how you improve your skills. This is how you level up your character. This is how you acquire items in Camelot Unchained. So I guess the best place to start, as usual, is in the beginning. And the beginning of this idea started when I was actually playing one of my favorite recent MMOs. And I was enjoying it. I was having a lot of fun leveling up because, frankly, it was quite easy, and I enjoyed the world. However, as I was playing the game, I started to feel, because there was no downtime and because everything was happening so quickly, that in a way it was actually kind of grinding. You know, it was kind of, wow, you know, it was like that old cliche when you see in movies with people on tour, and it's, no looking, we're walking, and they keep walking and they don't actually get to see anything. That's kind of how I felt with this game. And I thought, is it because we, as designers made it too easy? Was it because there's no downtime? Whether, you're looking at a great game, which I really did enjoy, like Guild Wars 2, or other games that have come out since Dark Age, that maybe we were moving in the wrong direction. And so that led me to thinking about how we could do things differently here, and how we could treat the whole journey as, even though this isn't a PvE game, this isn't a story game other than the story that you, the players, make, how could we do things in a manner to allow people to enjoy the game more, to feel, like they're not grinding to the next level. And that's where the discussion started. So before we launched our Kickstarter, we discussed this idea in the studio. The whole concept of whether modern games felt a little bit grindy, how we could do things differently, how we could emphasize more the fun in playing the game, and not just, oh, I am 50 points away from my next level, or 100 points from my skill use bar going up. So before we launched our Kickstarter, we talked about this idea. We talked about whether modern MMOs really, in an attempt to feel less grindy, end up being more grindy. We talked about how we could do things differently here, and even though this is not a game where story driven by the developers matter, your story as a player does matter. And after many months of discussions, I think, hopefully, almost everyone agreed here that this is worth an attempt. Now, what's very interesting about this idea to begin with is that when we were filming this the day before, a very well-respected, game designer, a guy that has done some tremendous work in the industry, Jeremy Gaffney, was interviewed, where he talked about the importance of experience bars to players. He talked about how, this was something that, players had gotten accustomed to, and frankly was a major part, of their, experience in games, and especially in MMOs. And I agree with him. I mean, this is something that's been in the industry forever. It is something that is a very, very, very common mechanic. And that's how we're going to change things. This, what we're going to describe to you, is not common. It is a throwback to old school pen and paper games. It is very different. It is very risky. But I think by the end of the presentation, you still might think it's BSC, but hopefully by the end of this presentation, while you still may think it's a BSC idea, I hope that you also agree that it's worth trying. How is this going to work in Camelot Unchained? Let's start with the fact that we're throwing out what is one of the absolute basic tenets of RPGs, leveling up your character instantly. As you play the game, every time you kill an NPC, every time you kill a PC, every time you do anything, we have been conditioned by games to expect a reward. Now, obviously for you experienced MMO players and guys who, even if you don't play a lot of MMOs, you've heard the analogy of a Skinner box. We are not using anything that's even remotely like a Skinner box. This is not going to be a game where every time you do something, every time you accomplish something, you will be told exactly what it's worth. We're going to do things very, very differently. And how? Well, let's start with, for those of you who've played, pen and paper games, do you remember, especially you old school guys who played Dungeons and Dragons and anything of that era, how you wouldn't know what experience you got. You wouldn't necessarily know what treasure you got until the end of the night. You would play through the game, you could run dungeons, you could encounter NPCs, and you might not know everything that you got until the night was done. Now, this is a concept that, while it's been used a lot, obviously in pen and paper games, has not been used a lot here. And frankly, never, as far as I know, been used in an MMORPG. That's the core concept. That as you are playing this game, as you are taking out forts, as you are burning down enemy villages, as you're killing PCs, NPCs, as you're recovering, minerals, you won't know the exact value of those acts in terms of your character until later in the day, or in this case, many cases, in most cases, until the morning. How is this going to change how you play the game? I think, and certainly most of the team thinks, hugely. Because you're no longer going to be going out and thinking, well, if I kill 10 more rats, I'm going to get a level. Or if I swing the sword another 50 times, I'm going to get a level. Or I'm going to go out and I'm going to burn down this fort or take this keep, and this is exactly what I'm going to get if I'm going to do that. This is going to free you from worrying about any of this during gameplay. Is it weird? Is it going to be different? Absolutely. But we do think there'll be a lot of benefits for you as a player, and honestly, and us as designers, for doing it this way. Let's start with the first one. In, frankly, every RPG I've played, there is no doubt a certain amount of excitement when you get near a level. No question. But there's also that feeling of, do I really want to grind out, another, level tonight? Or do I really want to do this when I'd rather be actually doing something else, but the something else isn't as rewarding? That won't matter anymore. You can do what you want. You can go, and if you'd rather be mining, if you're going to burn down other teams' buildings, you can go ahead and do that. You can do things with your friends without worrying about, wow, what's going to be the most effective way to level? Because frankly, you won't know what the most effective way to level is until the end of the night. And even then, you still won't know, at least with the same amount of certainty you do in today's games. How are you going to know how you've done? Well, imagine this. So you've been playing the game for 6 hours. You've had a lot of fun in the evening, you've burned down some evil Arthurians' forts, or you've slain some Vikings, or maybe you even went into the depths and you recovered some things for your crafters. Now, you will know during gameplay what you've accomplished in terms of your deeds. Frankly, if we didn't record that, the way we have the UI set up, somebody else will do that. So of course we will be recording that. At the end of the night, you will get essentially a summary of everything you've done during that night. You will know how many people you've killed. You'll know how much treasure you've recovered, how many things you've burned down, how many times you swung your sword or cast a certain spell. All that will be available to you. So you can look, at what you've done and go, wow, I had a pretty good night. Or, maybe I didn't have such a good night. But you will know what you've accomplished. That's the important part. You will know that you've done a lot that day, or that evening, or that day and night, we hope at times. What that'll be worth to you, that you won't find out until the next day. You've gone to bed. You know that over the night you did a lot of cool things. You burned some stuff down, you killed a bunch of enemies, you went into the depths, you had a really good night. But now it gets even better. Because after you go to sleep, when all the rating has stopped, we shut down the servers. Now, this is not a guarantee that we'll have to do this. As those who have played my other games know, I don't like the daily shutdowns. But it may actually be useful in this case. Because when we shut down these servers, what will happen is during the night, everything that is done in the game, every single action that could have any impact on a character, such as sword swings, such as killing the enemies, such as mining, are being stored, on each server. When we shut it down, the servers will then go through all this data and see how a team did, how a realm did, how a guild did. And then, based on that, and based on things like, was that realm outnumbered and when was it outnumbered? Essentially, a huge statistical analysis of what happened that evening and that day. And when that happens, it will then look at each individual player and go, okay, for your contribution to the realm, you get this. Maybe your strength went up. Maybe your ability to use a spell went up. Or maybe, because your realm did really well, that the ruler of your realm decides that they're going to award you and maybe the entire realm other bonus stuff. Whether it's things like medals, which is, obviously a bit of a trope, but also other things, such as minerals. Some of the mining that is going on is, of course, for your realm. And now, for those players especially who don't have crafters or who don't do a lot of mining, they can be awarded certain of these minerals that have been earned by the other players. You'll be awarded other things as well. You may be, as you level up, awarded the right to build a bigger house or get a bigger plot. You may be awarded the right to wield certain weapons that only master craftsmen can make. You'll be awarded everything that you could possibly imagine within a game like this. Because as I've said on the forums, it's not simply about what level your character is, how powerful your abilities are. We intend to give to our players more than just a raise in their ability to use, a spell or a sword. We can do a lot of things that don't depend solely on combat or even on crafting ability. And this is one of the ways we're going to do it. Is it a bit crazy? Absolutely. Like I said, we have been conditioned to kill something and get something. And this is very different. I know that. We know that. So think about how it will change the way you play this game. So economics. This is something that I know a lot of our crafters and our combatants are going to want to know. How is this all going to work with an economy that, I've said is going to be player driven? Well, actually, it's going to work quite well when you think about it. So one of the things that we worry about here, and anyone who's played an RVR MMO worries about as well, is what happens to the underpopulated realm. If you have to go out and capture mines, and you have to mine, and you guys are outnumbered, a lot of the time, how are you going to be able to do this? End up driving people away. We've seen this in all games, that have tried to do either a tri-realm or bi-realm, and it usually means bye-bye to the realms because it doesn't work well, where one side is very unbalanced. Well, this is where this system actually does work quite well. So let's say you're the underpopulated realm that night. You guys are trying really hard, but you can't, you weren't able to capture a lot of mines. Your crafters weren't able to get out and really do a lot of digging. This system will actually help you out. Because again, instead of using just the typical bonuses of, hey, you're now plus 20, to hit because you guys are really outnumbered, or you're now an extra 10 points of damage. So even though other games have used these, it is something that, can be kind of demoralizing, for the other realms too, because the only reason that these guys are doing more damage to you is because they're underpopulated and we gave them a bonus. Well, this actually won't lead to that, because let's say that you guys, because you are underpopulated, you're not getting a huge bonus on your damage. You're not getting a huge bonus on your chance to hit. What you will get are bonuses, rewards from your king that will take effect the next day. So that when you guys, who obviously you need minerals, because if you don't have minerals, you guys can't craft. And if you guys can't craft, you can't keep making weapons. You can't keep making arrows. You can't keep making poisons. Or you can't keep making anything, or a lot of things that are important. Well, that's where the king comes in. If you guys have been doing your job during the preceding weeks or months and making sure that the storerooms of your king are filled, he can simply release more to you as players. So simply by participating, even though you're still losing, you will be rewarded extra materials, which you then of course can trade with your crafters for them to make things. So we don't think this will be at all unbalancing. If anything, it will make it not only a little more attractive to play on the underpopulated realms, but it will mean that the underpopulated realms, and this is the key bit, they won't be at such a significant disadvantage that people want to just quit. They won't think about, oh, we can't get anything done tonight. We won't be able to get any materials. We won't be able to get the crafters, and the crafters are complaining, and it's just miserable. Well, it won't be that way, because that's where the king comes in, that's where this system comes in, and it will help your economy. It will help the underpopulated realm. And the best part of it is, it won't punish the other two realms. Because those bonuses that I talked about earlier, even though they were necessary for some games, and might at a lesser extent be necessary too here, they do punish those other realms. They do say, because you're more popular, these guys need an advantage to play against you. Here you are not punished for that. Not in the way you have to be when those bonuses are the only way to get rewarded as the underpopulated realm. Here, you're still fighting. Maybe we will give you a little boost, but it won't be a huge boost. What you will get a boost in is other things that the king of your realm can give to you. And we think that is a great and different and not crazy way of doing things. One of the things about this system is it makes it very difficult for players to find the path of least resistance when it comes to leveling. You guys know what I'm talking about. I've already discussed this in the foundational principles and on the forums. This is something that anyone who's played an MMO or even an RPG, you know, understands. That a majority of players, is it the vast majority? Probably not. But the majority of players will try to look for the most expedient way to level their character. Now, that has led to some behaviors that MMO players, especially RVR players, hate, and that's keep trading. This is a problem. It will still be a problem even with this system, but because we're looking at the data, you know, or aggregating the data and looking at what happens over the course of an evening, because we are taking the time to factor in realm population, because everything else that happens in the realm is important as well. Using a keep trading to level your character faster or to gain additional benefits faster is going to be a lot less attractive. It's going to be a lot harder to figure out the value of everything, or anything, frankly, you do in the game. Because even if you knew that tonight you get killed 10 PCs of the same power level, essentially, as you, and that at the end of the day, your reward was X, that doesn't mean that each NPC was 1/10 of X, or 1/5 of X, or whatever the numbers work out. It doesn't mean that at all. Because what else happened in your realm? Because what the population was of your realm. Because everything else that's going on is also factored in. Now, can you get a rough guess maybe? Probably. An exact guess with the kind of certainty where players love to then go, well, if we trade keeps for 40 minutes, then, you know, this will be a real benefit. It will make it harder. And because, again, we are looking at the entire evening's entertainment, And if we see, or I should say the servers see, that realms that are underpopulated keep taking keeps, and realms that are overpopulated, wow, they just keep losing keeps, we're going to factor that into the calculation. So not only will you, as the player or players who are engaging in this sort of, I don't want to say horrible behavior, but certainly I think a bit destructive behavior. So not only are you going to be penalized for it, but so will your entire realm. We talk about realm pride. We talk about server pride. Well, let me tell you, if you want that realm pride, if you want to feel like part of a group and part of, this body that is trying to fight off these other two realms, you're not going to want to engage in this behavior. And this system will help encourage you not to engage in this behavior. Imagine this. You are part of a guild that's engaged in keep trading with a guild from another realm. Now, this has happened. It happened in Warhammer. It's happened in other RVR games as well. In this game, though, it will be different. I don't want to say this system is foolproof, because it isn't. However, it does rely a lot on realm pride and also server pride to help reinforce the good behavior, which is not keep trading, which is not, an arrangement between two realms or guilds of multiple realms to go back and forth. Because when you do that, when you actively keep trade, your entire realm could be penalized for it. Because if you guys, especially if you are the overpopulated realm, and your guild has decided that they're going to work with a guild from one of the underpopulated realms to keep trade, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. Your realm will be penalized for it. Not just your guild, but your entire realm. Because when those numbers are run, and when it shows that this behavior was going on, this is going to apply, this penalty will apply across every player of your realm. Now, that's not going to make your guild very popular. If you are seen as doing this very often, maybe the crafters who don't belong to your guild, or maybe other people who don't belong to your guild, like most of the server, won't, want to work with you, won't help you, kind of maybe ostracize you a bit. Again, not perfect, but a step in the right direction. So it'll also mean that people who are playing on an underpopulated realm can get additional bonuses other than the usual, well, we see that your realm is underpopulated by 10%, so we're going to give you a 5% chance, to hit, or a 5% bonus on your damage. There's nothing wrong with those bonuses. Obviously, we did stuff like that in Dark Age. But we need to do better. And this system will allow us to do that. So that underpopulated realm, when the night is over and everything is being tallied up, if you guys simply tried hard, even if you didn't succeed, other than maybe fighting off some, invasions, or maybe building some things, or maybe taking some mines, you can still be rewarded for that. And frankly, the king can reward you with an additional bonus as well. And that's where some of the beauty of this system comes in. What is it going to be like every day after the server is shut down? Imagine it's your birthday and you were a kid again. And you wake up, you run downstairs, you hopefully, you've gotten presents from your parents and uncles and grandparents and all that. And it's kind of cool. That's what we want every day to be like in Camelot Unchained. We want you to go to bed, excited about what you did that night, or even maybe, hopefully my realm did well because I didn't have a great night. And then, when you wake up, you get an email from the game, from your king, telling you everything, again, that you did, but also your realm did. Imagine getting a newspaper which lists all the great deeds for that night. For example, that if your guild was one that fought a heroic battle and took, this wonderful castle that is owned by one of the bad realms, and that is recorded, and that is front page news of this newspaper, and that your name even is mentioned in it. And then when you get the reward report, let's call it for now, from your realm, and it lists everything that you've done and what you've earned for it, how your character has progressed, how your name has become more meaningful within the realm. And that is a daily activity. That, I think, is really cool. Again, this is something that is a little bit nuts. But if every day you can wake up and get this cool, newspaper in your email, and it lists everything that happened on your server that night. It talks about your realm. It talks about the guilds that did well, or players that did something particularly heroic, and you see your name up there. This is better than a leaderboard. Leaderboards are they're okay, and I'm not saying we're not going to have them, but this is even cooler. This is the kind of excitement and fun and crazy that I think this system will allow us to bring to gaming. And again, I think it's very important that the people who are playing this game are not playing it simply thinking, every hour on the hour of what do I need to do just to level my character. This is more about what you can do to help your realm, to build that pride in your guild, in your realm, in your race that I've talked about from the beginning of this Kickstarter. This is the way to do it, to free you from thinking about just how to level my toon the fastest possible, and instead, what can I do to help my realm? Because if you're going out and you're helping your realm, and you're going out with your guild, and you're doing the things that your king will reward you for, and other players will thank you for, this becomes more than a game. I've talked about how I'd like this to be more of a world, but we don't have, obviously, and don't want to try to make it like some of the huge, theme park worlds that we've created, including, obviously, us back in the Mythic days. But can we build a world that is more tightly knit, is more integrated, that feels more worldly, because you get these messages because of how you are integrated, again, with other players, how you're working with them, how you are striving to get things done, not solely on the basis of what will level you faster, but what will get you rewarded by your king and, of course, by the game in a more, more appropriate manner. That's what we're trying to do with this idea. This, again, is a bit crazy. It flies in the face of decades of how these games work, whether on consoles or computers. But we think it's worth doing. We think it's going to be fun. We think it's going to allow us as designers, to make it easier for players to engage in behavior that not only is fun, but is frankly better for your realm, because you're playing this game not just to level up your sword arm or how well you throw magic. You're playing this game to engage in RVR. You're playing this game to burn stuff down, to blow stuff up, and to build things. And this, we hope, will encourage players to do that and not simply sit around trying to figure out how to most quickly and efficiently level their character. But frankly, if this system does work the way we hope it will, the best way and most efficient way to level your character will simply be to play the game. I've mentioned a couple of times during the presentation the words leveling up. And of course what I mean, just so nobody gets confused, or especially as I always say on the forums, don't panic. I don't mean you're leveling up your character in the traditional way. I'm using that term to refer to getting better with your skills or your stats, abilities, everything like that. There is no overall, level in the traditional sense. And this is one of the times, of course, where we're straying away from pen and paper games. Leveling up simply means get better. So in your dictionary of Mark speak, level up means improving your character in a way that we've already discussed. Again, leveling your stats like strength through using weapons. Leveling up your ability to use a sword by using the weapons. Your ability to use a magic rune by using the magic rune. That's what I mean by leveling up. So even though we've talked about in the stat presentation, the idea of stat caps. I thought it would be a good idea. Actually, Ben thought it would be a good idea. See, he's here during this talk, making sure I either haven't missed anything or I haven't said anything totally dumb. So far, I think I haven't, right, Ben? Yeah. Oh, good. Speak up. So, you know, he mentioned that I should talk about this a little bit more. So, you know, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. What is a soft cap versus a hard cap? Well, for those of you who've played MMOs, you know the definition. But for those who might be new or might want to hear how we're going to do it, a very quick explanation. A lot of games, pen and paper and, you know, of course, computer games, say that once you hit a certain cap in a stat or even an ability, a certain, you know, top value, you can't go any higher. So, you know, whether sometimes it's bundled with race or class or just the game itself, we're not going to have those in this game. So when you reach a certain level or value in a stat, let's say that your strength is now 150 or your ability to use a fireball, you know, is, you know, 60. And these numbers right now, by the way, don't mean anything. A lot of games would say that's it. You can't progress any further. What we're going to say is once you hit that cap, once you hit that level, you will be able to, you know, continue to level it, but it's going to be really, really slowly. Now, what I mean by really, really slowly, in today's in today's games, that could mean, oh, it's going to take me a month to move it up. No. This is old school. Remember, I said this right from the beginning. This is going to be a very slow progression game. So once you hit soft cap, don't expect that you're going to be raising, you know, that ability or that stat every day or every week. It's going to take longer and it's going to get progressively harder. However, you will always be able to raise that ability and stat up. It may take you years. It may take you even longer in some cases than a year to raise, you know, something when it's all the way at the top. As we've said from the beginning, choices matter in this game. And if you're making the choice to continue to use weapons, to continue to use magic, continue to play the game, we need to reward you for that. You've made that choice, you need to be rewarded. And that stat will go up. That ability will increase. Now, does this mean that we're violating, you know, one of the tenets of this game, which was a mostly horizontal progression system with a slight slice of verticality? No, it doesn't. Because that increase, if you know, let's say that you have a typical range in your stat of strength of 100 or 200 or 300, it doesn't really matter, pick a number. As long as that increase is small, and as long as that increase happens over the course of months, or in the case sometimes of years, that addition is not going to imbalance anything. It gives you a little bonus, but it doesn't have the kind of effect that we're trying to stay away from of this game, of new players coming in and being toast the moment they fight a veteran player. On the other hand, it also says thank you to our veteran players for continuing to play the game. One of the key components of this system is, again, rewarding players by giving them things. Whether it is things that are important outside the, you know, the combat arena, or things that will help you, you know, in the combat arena or crafting arena. You will need to be rewarded. You will need to get things for doing not only what you should be doing, we hope, in the game, but also using your stats, using your abilities. And that's where the unlocking comes in. So if you have progressed with, say, an ability, let's use a pretty tropey one, Fireball. You have worked at it. You know, you've really kind of mastered it. And then, as you've mastered it, and you wake up the next day, you may find out that you have been asked to go back to your guild, to go back, and we're just using the term guild now generically, going back to your guild to get some new runes, to get some new abilities, to get a way to make that spell maybe even more powerful, or you will then unlock another ability that will feed off the fireball. So whether it is just to make a larger fireball, or the ability now to mix the fireball with some other components, or just an entirely different, line that will be unlocked from that fireball, that's part of the reward for not only playing the game, but for using your skills, using your abilities, using your stats in the right way. Look, we know this is a different idea, but when you backed this Kickstarter, you backed an indie studio that's willing to take chances. You've heard the presentations on the magic system, on combat system. We've talked about the maps for this game. Hopefully we've talked about crafting, because actually as we're filming this, not 100% sure that's going to fit in the 4 days, but you've seen that we are willing to take chances, and that is the beauty of backing this studio, because we are willing to throw out the tropes. Just as I said during the initial Kickstarter, we are willing to take chances and do something different, and this is something different, very different. Now, we are not welded to this idea in a manner that we won't ever consider taking it out. That would be equally as wrong as being unwilling to take chances. But we want to take these chances now. We want to experiment with different things. One of the things that I always say here is we shouldn't be changing things just to change them. That's wrong. But what we should be doing is changing things because we can make it better. And that's the key with this system. Is it BSC? Absolutely. Will it make the gaming experience of the vast majority of people better? I've thought about this for now almost 2 years, and I think with every fiber in my being that it's worth a shot. I know it's something I would like. Again, it's different. I know that everyone who's listening to this presentation knows that it's different. It is not the, push down and out comes the pellet. It is not the RPG leveling system of almost every other computer game that's ever been made. It is risky, it is different, but that's the beauty of backing us and backing this team. We are willing to try different things. So, look, again, the surveys are coming. Let us know what you think. We hope you like it. We are going to try to do this. We hope that you will continue to give us your support and try this idea and let it sink in and play with it for a while. See if it works. Because I think if we can pull this off, it is a game-changing, sorry for the cliche, game-changing event. It is something that I think will end up being so different about Camelot Unchained and so much fun that you all look back at this and go, okay, maybe it wasn't as crazy as it seemed. But no matter what, as always, I thank you. And we thank you for your support and for listening to this presentation.